Welcome to a new episode of From Every Path, a podcast celebrating the unique journeys of our Ward family. Each episode will explore the life of one member, learning how their path, whether filled with challenges, triumphs, or quiet moments, has brought them closer to God and enriched our Ward community. This is Channing Atkin, and thank you for joining us. I'm so glad you could join us today. Your story is one I know will inspire and connect with so many of us. To begin, let's start with a simple introduction. Tell us your name, how long you've been part of the Ward, and maybe a little bit about what brought you here.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Bryan Cross. We've been in the Ward, it'll be 2 years in February. We met in Salt Lake City, and we're living in Salt Lake City in a little 2-bedroom apartment. And by the time that we moved here, we had 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. We had a townhome that was being built, and it took extra long just because of COVID and everything. So then this home popped up that was available, and we said, nix it to the townhome and came here instead. And it was great because Haley's family lives here and she grew up in the neighborhood. So we were just happy to come on over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was the townhome at?
It was off of Antelope Drive. Okay. Yeah, it was right next to the worker place. What's that one thing called? I don't know. It doesn't
matter. Was it the new ones though, between 1000 and 2000?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have sucked to live there anyway. Look at this house you got.
True. I know. Yeah, it's true. We wouldn't have any yard.
Yeah, those places look
spread out.
They look crappy over there.
Yeah.
What's a song or piece of music that always lifts your spirits?
Ooh, that's a good one. I love Come Thou Fount, which is, I'm so happy that one's a hymn now because I love to sing it.
It's a good song.
Yeah, it's a good one. That one, If You Could Hide a Kolob, that one's a rarely sung one, but a good one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
Probably black. For the longest time, I used to say like red or blue or something. And then I just woke up one day and realized that every single shirt I had was black.
Yeah.
And went from there. Yeah.
This color, red and black, are my favorite colors. So, what's your favorite season?
Probably fall. I would like to say winter because of the snow, because I grew up in Florida, but I don't love driving in it. I don't love shoveling it, but I like to look at it.
Yeah.
But fall is like a good time.
You lucked out with a south-facing house.
Yeah.
Because every house I've had has been north-facing.
Yeah.
And it always takes so much extra work to get rid of the snow than the other way. It sucks.
Well, we still have, 10 feet of snow in our backyard from that one time that it snowed.
Really?
Just because the way our house like shades it.
I have nothing at my place. Snowy. Do you have a favorite flower or plant?
I can't say that I do. I would probably say tulips, just because that's probably the only one I know. Yeah.
Not a plant guy. Check.
No.
Okay. What's your favorite animal?
Probably a shark. Yeah, growing up in Florida, I always wanted to get a shark tattoo.
Yeah.
I just thought they were just the dirtiest animal. And I swam in high school, and I thought I was going to go to the Olympics and have a shark tattoo and an Olympic tattoo, and it would be super cool. But yeah. So
sharks. What's your favorite sport or activity?
I love to weightlift and run. I like to do golf and like woodworking kind of things. Yeah, I grew up playing lacrosse and swimming and soccer, and I studied kinesiology in college. So any sport, any activity, I think it's fun just to get out and do.
What's your favorite thing about living in this area?
I like the community aspect of it. The 4th of July is really honestly the coolest holiday I've ever been involved with. In Orlando, they didn't have anything like super tight knit like that, and then in Salt Lake, it was just like those are both kind of bigger cities, and so this kind of has like a small town feel to it, I guess, to me.
So have you gone to the city carnivals and stuff, or more like just neighborhood stuff?
It's the one thing in particular I'm thinking about is the West Point Days, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
That's what I mean by the city carnivals.
Yeah.
Because Clearfield does a big one too, and Bountiful does a big one too.
And we've been to the Hooper one, because that's where Haley's sister lives.
Okay.
They really like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Yeah, I have watched The Office probably way too many times. Anything, probably once a day. I come up with some thing that reminds me of a quote, and I shout it out to Haley, and she's like, "Is that from The Office?" And it is. Where's
your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
Probably Spain. I served my mission in Spain, and then Haley and I went back before we had Elsie.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the coolest place I've ever been, as well as my favorite, just because of the memories that are there.
Mm-hmm. Spain would be cool. We went to Italy
Oh,
in
nice.
2016, which has a lot of similarities, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously different. Spain would be cool.
Did you serve your mission there or anything,
No.
or like just went?
No, I went to North Carolina.
Oh,
We
okay.
just went to Italy for our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, nice. That's
Actually,
awesome.
no, that wasn't. We went to Hawaii for our 10-year. We just went to Italy, I guess.
That's it.
Because I was only 7 years in.
Yeah.
We just went on a trip. I wanted to go to Ireland,
Okay.
and she wanted to do Italy, and Italy won. So
Yeah.
because she picked it.
Yeah.
No, Italy was cool. We just went there for a week or so. And okay. Well, thanks for sharing those. It's always fun to learn the little things that make us who we are.
Yeah.
Now let's take a step back to the beginning and talk about your early years. Can you tell us a bit about your family growing up and what was your home like?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up, I had a single mom. It was just myself, my mom, and my sister. And we lived in a small little area in Florida called Chiefland. It's right outside of Gainesville, but it still has like dirt roads and everything. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why I like the small town feel, because it kind of
Small town's better anyway.
My mom got divorced when I was like 3, and so we moved in with my grandma and my grandfather, and just kind of hung out and played in the woods. My grandpa was a big hunter, so there was always guns lying around and stuff like that, and it was in the middle of the woods, so we would find snakes and just random crap, and he'd come out and shoot them, or I don't know, things like that. Normally a 4-year-old doesn't necessarily see.
4,
yeah, but it was like, I don't know, it was just kind of like
the way it was
there. Yeah. I remember we had this little, they built like I want to say a playhouse, but it was basically just like a four-walled area that they put like chicken wire around. And we had like our little rock collection and stuff out there. And I don't know, we just kind of played and did kid stuff, stayed out until dark. I don't know if kids really do that anymore, but mine don't, at least because they're 6 and 4. But yeah, so that was, I don't know, it was fun. It was a good time.
Okay. What was your relationship like with your sister?
Good and bad. She was sassy and bossy, but super fun. So whenever we were playing and having fun, it was great. And whenever she was being the sassy, bossy older sister, it was not great. I remember just doing stupid stuff. Like one time I put this blanket on her head and I sat on it. And my grandma comes running in and she's like, "Get off her!" And I didn't know how bad it was, but I knew that I wanted to sit on her head because I didn't like what she was doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It's definitely blossomed into a better relationship now that we're grown and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun time.
Good. Was there a tradition in your home that you have carried on since then, or that you really enjoyed then?
I wouldn't say that I enjoyed it, but I did carry it on. In the South, they do this thing where they eat collard greens and black-eyed peas.
Collard greens are so gross.
I know, it's the worst.
I've only had it one time, so I try not to judge it like overall, but
yeah,
I had it one time in North Carolina. They were awful.
Oh, they're the worst thing in the world.
It was so gross.
Yeah, but it's like this, it's tradition, and my mom says it's a Southern thing. It might just be like a cross thing, but it was supposedly the black-eyed peas were supposed to bring you good luck, and the collard greens were supposed to bring you fortune because they're green.
Yeah.
And really the only way you can eat them is just douse them in salt and pound it, And so, I don't know, that's basically the only tradition that I can really think of. And we still do it to this day. And my wife hates it. I hate it. Yeah. Nobody likes it. My mom says,
well, you've had a pretty good life, and you're attributing it to that.
I'm attributing it to that, yeah. No,
the black-eyed peas.
My mom says she likes it, but I don't know how she could, because it's disgusting.
Yeah, the meal we ate it with was spaghetti and collard greens. It was just a meal. It wasn't for the tradition or not. It was a meal. It was spaghetti and collard greens. And I remember it was so awful, I tried taking bites of the spaghetti with the collard greens just to get rid of it. Yeah. It was my mission, so I had to eat, right? Whatever. And all it did was ruin my spaghetti. Like, it was so bad. Like, it ruined the meal, and I finished the plate, but I was like, that's the one thing. I'm not picky. Yeah. But that's one thing I can say is gross. Like, that's not good.
Well, I don't know if I've ever had them outside of that one tradition. I don't know if anybody else that's ever eaten them besides you now.
Yeah. So when did you move here?
To Utah, you mean?
Yeah.
I came to Utah.
Or when did you move out of Florida, I guess?
Yeah, so I moved around a lot in Florida. So we were in Chiefland and then Jacksonville, Orlando, Gainesville, just kind of all around there. And that was basically just wherever my mom could find work, for a while. We ended up settling kind of in Orlando. So whenever I say I grew up in Florida, I mean Orlando. But then we stayed there basically throughout my high school years.
Oh, okay.
And then we came here my senior year of high school. My sister went to BYU that same year. She was a year older than me. And my mom basically just found a job out here so she could follow her. And then we ended up here. So, yeah.
Okay. So what was school like there?
It was honestly sick. It was pretty cool. We didn't grow up in the best neighborhood, so it was a little bit rougher than, I don't know, anything you'd see in Utah. But I feel like because of that, I kind of got to experience just a whole myriad of different things, hence the wanting a shark tattoo.
Yeah.
It was great. I played a lot of sports. I dated a lot. I just did the typical kid thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have any earlier memories of favorite teachers or bad teachers?
Yeah, I had two teachers come to mind. One is Miss Drummond. I think she was kindergarten, but she had like a loft in her classroom. And so you could climb up there and like take a nap during reading time because they had nap time back then. And so I just remember you always wanted to be the one that got to sleep
in the loft.
Yeah, I thought it was sick. And then, but the other one that comes to mind, his name is Mr. Thomas, and he was in high school. I was playing football at the time, and I was doing really poorly in his class. And he basically just said, quit focusing on athletics and focus on your academics because you're not big enough.
You're not going to
be. He basically just told me point blank, and I'd never had anybody tell me like that. So I super respected him, and I did really well in his class, and he was great.
Cool, yeah. Did you grow up in the church?
My grandma, I guess, and I found this out later, but my grandma was a member. I don't know when she joined or anything like that, but so she and my mom were members, but then my mom had left the church just for whatever reasons. And then my grandma felt like we needed to be involved in church. And so she sent the missionaries to our door, and they knocked and met my mom, and she was like, I don't want you here. And they said, well, it's okay. Ended up convincing her to let them in, and they came in.
Your mom sent us.
I know, basically, yeah. Yeah, it was a funny. My mom, when she found out that my grandma sent them, was pretty peeved about it. But
because I think a lot of missionaries probably wouldn't tell. Your mom sent us. Yeah, that could cause problems.
Yeah, it's true.
So when was that?
I was 7, I think, at the time. Okay. So for the better part of my childhood, I was a member.
So the missionaries came in when you were 7, and rekindled the desire to go to church and stuff.
Yeah, it was my sister, I guess. So my sister got invited to somebody's Baptist church, and the Southern Baptists don't like the LDS church down there, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Basically, so she went, saw somebody get baptized, and was like, oh, I want to be baptized. And so that's kind of what sparked my grandma to send the missionaries to us, because she was like, well, if you're going to get baptized, you're going to learn about all the gospel, not just other people's. And so, yeah, so that happened and then rekindled it. And my mom was, like I said, pretty apprehensive for a while, but eventually it all kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you remember a time that you felt a desire to listen to God or anything then?
Yeah, absolutely. Just whenever we were getting taught by the missionaries, it just felt different.
Even at 7?
Yeah, because my mom drank and smoked and did all the stuff that you do whenever, I don't know.
When you're not hindered by the gospel.
Yeah, whenever, yeah, exactly. When you don't have anybody telling you not to do it. And so it was just, and she got pregnant at 17, I think, with me. Maybe 17 and my sister 18 with me. But it was just not like a good place, I guess, to be in. And so then whenever the missionaries came, like I distinctly remember it feeling more positive and happy and joyful. I don't think I recognized that it was the spirit at that point because I was young.
But you could see the good.
But yeah, absolutely. There was a difference in our home.
Cool. Okay, so what were you like as a kid?
I've always been kind of introverted. I can mask it in like social situations. I don't love going to parties or anything like that, and I feel like it's kind of just carried up from my childhood. I've always been kind of introverted, but I was also kind of an idiot whenever I was a kid, which I mean, everybody's an idiot, right? Yeah, I used to just throw temper tantrums and be an idiot. Like literally just, I don't know how my mom dealt with me. I was so dumb, but I turned out okay, I guess. But I see it now with my own kids. Whenever they like start throwing fits, I'm like, don't go down that road. It's gonna be terrible.
My kids really, at least my daughter really responds well to green and red choices.
Oh, really?
So we're like, you're making red choices right now. She hates doing what we say, but she hates doing red choices. So it's like, that's kind of a winner for us. So we say that one to her, but
I've never heard of that before, the green and red choices.
Well, it's kind of, I think it's from school. So it's a technique, one of the techniques they use for like in-class discipline or whatever. Yeah. So just making green choices or red choices. Gotcha. That one really connects with her. But when you said that about don't follow that path, I just kind of thought of it. But yeah. So it sounds like you were pretty adventurous and curious as a kid, especially on your grandparents' place. But did that kind of continue when you moved to Orlando?
I would say yeah. We were pretty adventurous, got out in the woods a little bit. And then whenever we moved to Orlando, there was no real woods or anything to go into, but we still went camping and stuff like that.
Cool. Do you remember kind of what you wanted to be growing up, or?
Yeah, I always wanted to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I thought that would be the sickest thing to go up into space. An astronaut or an actor. It's just like every kid, they just have these grand dreams. It's just a small part of me still would love to be an astronaut.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know if you've watched like SpaceX and stuff. It's like they're doing some cool stuff. It'd be cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized the intensity of like what it takes to become an astronaut or to become an actor, like these things that people idealize.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not really for me. Yeah. But I did ROTC with the Air Force for a little bit. One of the guys that was in my detachment he is actually now a lieutenant with the Space Force, and he's going to like be an astronaut in his training. So at some point, I'm a little bit jealous of it, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, you never know, because if we make it that far before like the second coming or something, who knows?
Maybe we'll just live there.
They're definitely allowing more and more civilians and stuff going there. I think you just got to do the tests and make sure you're able to. You got to have the money, right?
Well, just have the money, right?
Yeah. You never know in like 5 years.
An iPhone used to cost like an arm and a leg, and now everyone has one.
Okay, well, as we get into your teenage years and high school and whatnot, did you have a favorite subject that you loved?
Yeah, I loved math. I think it just like made sense to me, like there wasn't any interpretation of it, which is I still struggle with the interpretation of different ideas. I just like the cold hard facts, and I feel like math kind of gave that to you.
Yeah. Your wife said something very similar.
Did she?
Her liking math, and then once you learn it, you just know it, and like, there's not variables to it. This is how you solve this, and you just kind of got the answers then.
And same with science. I also want to be a doctor at some point in my growing up. I thought science was kind of cool too, just because it was like they had a specific method that you follow to find answers for anything. And granted, science is a lot different than math in the sense that it can be interpreted differently.
Yeah, well, it depends on the field that you choose in it.
Yeah, exactly.
What about activities or skills that you had in school?
Anything sporty, I would do. I probably stretched myself way too thin. I did basically every track, volleyball, lacrosse, soccer, literally any sport that they offered in school, I just did.
You did it all?
Yeah. Wow. Like there was a point where I was in marching band, on the football team, and running cross country all in one season. It was stupid, but whenever you're a kid, you're just like doing it.
So did you have social life with friends and stuff as well?
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of friends. I mean, the friends that I had were in these sports
In
too.
sports, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was like that's who I hung out with.
Yeah.
But I always made time to date, I don't know, to get out there,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Girls were important.
They were very important
Yeah.
at that age, especially.
So do you remember during those school years a time that you felt inspired or guided by the Spirit to do something?
Yeah, actually, this goes back to the question of the favorite hymn, that if you could hide a coal up. I was a teenager, and we were sitting in sacrament meeting, and we started to sing this hymn, and it was the first time that I ever cried outside of being a baby, and I couldn't stop, and I didn't know why. And then after the hymn and the prayer and everything, because it was a closing hymn, my mom was just like, "That was the Spirit, Brian." And I was like, "Oh." And so I think ever since then, I've just always connected to that song, because it's, I guess a little bit to me, it felt like it like opened the door to experiencing spirituality.
Like feeling that, yeah.
Yeah, as a kid. So
Mm-hmm. Cool.
yeah.
Do you have a piece of advice or lesson that a mentor or teacher shared with you that still sticks with you?
Probably, well, I guess I kind of talked about this in my talk and sacrament meeting a couple weeks ago, but just the guy that comes to mind when I think of like mentor or anything like that or life lessons is Jacob Oplenop, who was my home teacher. And really everything that he did stuck with me. There wasn't any like lessons per se, but it was just the way he carried himself and served others and treated his wife, just those sorts of things that really stick with me, I think.
Give you kind of a role model base to aspire to, almost.
Yeah. I wish there was something, he had like one quote or something that I could like call on, but no, it's just, he's just a good guy to
just give you something to try to pursue, I guess.
Yeah.
What was your first job, and how did it shape your outlook on like work and responsibility?
Yeah, my first, I mean, I mowed lawns whenever I was a kid, but I think my first job was, it was a retail store. It was Abercrombie, just down at the Gateway Mall.
Okay.
But I'm gonna refer to the lawn mowing as like the first one to answer the question. But it taught me to work hard, I think. It showed me that if you want to like make more money, you just mow more lawns. And so there was a distinct correlation between hard work and making good money. As a kid, that's all you really wanted, right? It was to just have something.
You need money to buy stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You want stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was nice because I learned very quickly that you just have to put yourself out there, ask people if they need their lawn mowed, and then show up and be consistent and do it.
Yeah. When did you start doing that?
I think I was 13.
Yeah.
Probably just right in that like lawn mowing age, you know, where you're old enough to walk the lawnmower down the street by yourself.
Yeah. We started doing newspapers. That's kind of how we did stuff. Yeah.
How did you grow up in Utah?
Yeah, I grew up here, right up the road.
Oh, cool.
Right up there.
Nice. I feel like nowadays they're all doing like window washing, but I don't know.
I mean, one of my good buddies did mowing, but he started getting into businesses instead of houses. And so me and one of his other friends helped with that. And so we made a little side cash in high school doing that.
That's pretty
But I don't remember ever on my own ask any neighbors or anything to mow their lawns and get paid for it. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But my family as a whole, we started with a few routes, and I had one that I was doing myself. Just kind of over, I don't know if you know where Doxy Elementary is. It's just right up 800. Anyway, we started that, and then our family got really big into it. I don't know if my parents just realized it was good money for like family vacations, because that's kind of what we use it for, but like our allowances and stuff came from our routes. But there was times like we were doing 14 routes as a family.
Holy cow.
And like we had a minivan with a sliding door. We took the middle bench out, and we would just fill the van up with all the, we would all sit outside the van and fill the van with all the rolled papers, and then sit inside the door.
Gotcha.
We could throw from the van to the porch or front sidewalk in front of the house and be okay. Nice. And so my mom would take one of the vans with the kids, and my dad would take me usually in the other van, We would drive these routes every morning before school. It's in a lot of ways it sucked. But
14 routes before school?
Yeah, well, because we were doing the Standard Examiner, which was a daily paper.
Okay.
So we were doing it every single day.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, it was before school.
That's nuts.
Yeah, before this, it was often before the sun came up and stuff, yeah.
How does someone, like, just do that? Like, do you join, like, the newspaper?
No, you just, I don't know how it is anymore. I don't even know if they do routes, or anything. But at the time, we started with a paper that was only like once a week, like Wednesdays or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first route I had, it was a lot more houses, but it was a free paper, and that's probably why. And you just did it once a week.
Gotcha.
And so after school, I had those bags on my handlebars, and you just fold like 180, I don't remember how many, 80 papers or 100 papers, and stuff them in these bags. And then I rode my bike to where it started and tossed them all out. But I don't know the exact process, but you just call them and sign up for routes. But
yeah.
I know that when I went on my mission and my parents moved to Woods Cross, they started and were still doing routes at that time.
Oh, really?
And so they just switched their routes. And my younger siblings, they were just doing routes down in Bountiful area.
Gotcha.
And my dad even bought a motorcycle at one point. He thought it might be not probably just for that, but he had this little Honda. Yeah. He had the papers on the motorcycle and on the front, and he was driving around on the motorcycle. But I don't think that was any easier, all the starting and stopping on a bike.
Yeah, that would have been hard.
Well, they did papers for a long time.
That's cool.
So when did you say that you moved here again?
2012. I was 17.
So did you graduate there?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I graduated from West High School in Salt Lake.
Junior to senior year or something.
Yep, yeah.
Okay. What was that like starting at a totally new place?
It was honestly super lame. It was ridiculously lame. Yeah, because
You said West High?
Yeah, West High.
Yeah, but that was nothing like Orlando, right?
No, and I was dating this girl when I left. And so I was just so peeved and just upset about the whole situation. But I mean,
you said it was your sister graduated and then wanted to go to BYU, and your mom just wanted to follow. You probably didn't think that was fair at all.
No, I didn't. No, and she meant well, my mom.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants her kids.
You're like, you can't even wait a year till I graduate first?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was fine. I met good friends, and it was good. Yeah.
West High, senior year. Mm-hmm. I know pretty well up there.
Do you?
How was the school?
It was decent.
The culture shock?
A little bit. It was... I don't know. It was funny because I was doing what's called the IB program in Florida, the International Baccalaureate. Anyway, I had to choose between Latin and Spanish. My sister took Latin, and so I took Latin, thinking she'd be able to help me. And so then whenever I came here, and so doing that program like exempts you from a bunch of different classes. And then I came here, and so I literally did freshman classes my entire senior year. It was like
you didn't have
biology,
credits.
Health, and so it was culture shock in the sense that I was in Utah, and then culture shock in the sense that I was just with all these. I felt like they were kids.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Was there anything with your schooling that kind of led you or guided you to the career that you're doing today?
No, absolutely not.
Just kind of happened out of the blue.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I wanted to be a doctor at one point. I did phlebotomy for a while while I was going to school, and then went from there to a place called PRA Health Sciences, where they call it a clinical research coordinator, but it's essentially you just do phlebotomy, IVs, basic assessments like that. And then because I had that experience, I was able to go to Huntsman and actually do clinical trial stuff. And then from there, I just kind of fell into my role now, which is clinical trial management. And so it literally, I don't know, it just kind of happened, really. And it's great because it pays the bills, but it's also kind of lame.
Yeah. Your wife said that you're pursuing your master's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how's that going? You haven't started yet, right?
No. Yeah. So I start in January. Right now, I've just been doing like the pre-enrollment type, I don't know, stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. I don't love school, but I'm excited to learn, I guess. So yeah.
What you travel a lot?
Yeah.
Where and how often?
My last role was 2 to 3 days a week, but now it's a lot less. It's like once a month, if that. It's basically the West. I have hospitals in California, Washington, Arizona, and Nevada. A lot of hospitals ever since COVID have you do the stuff that I do remotely. That's why my travel's kind of toned down just ever since COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get too far there, let's jump back to your mission.
Yeah.
So you graduated at West High.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always plan on going on a mission, or when did that come up?
Yeah, I did plan on going on a mission just because the missionaries like taught us, and so in my head it was the pinnacle of righteousness.
Cool.
You know? It was that year that they changed the age from 19 to 18 and 21, and so I graduated. I turned 18 in April, graduated in like May, and then just put in my papers as soon as I was done, and left for Spain in September.
Quick, yeah.
Yeah, it was a quick
Yeah,
little thing.
summer break and left. So mission in Spain. Did they have 6-week transfers there as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They did.
Okay. So what was your mission like?
It was great, but nuts at the same time. A little bit of culture shock going there too. It was nice because I kind of relied on not knowing the language to kind of make up for my inability to answer gospel questions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I didn't know something, I just said, oh, I don't know what's going on, you know? Exactly, yeah. But it was a good experience. Most people there are Catholic but not practicing. So I got very used to that phrase in Spanish.
Yeah. Only on
good.
Easter and Christmas.
I served in the Canary Islands. It's basically the Hawaii of Spain.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So did you get to go to more than like boat around?
No.
Or are you just on one?
Just one island.
Okay.
Yeah. So my island was the biggest one. It was Gran Canaria. And they had other islands like Tenerife and stuff. Yeah. And so they came to us for like zone conferences kind of thing. But I never got to venture out. Yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite area then?
So I actually came home early. I was only out for 6 months.
Okay.
And the first, 6 weeks, I think is what it was training. So I was really only on the mission field for like 4.5 months. And it was all in one area. So that was my favorite area.
Oh, the Canary Islands.
The Canary Islands.
At least you got to go there.
Yeah, I know. First area, last area.
So did you have
perfect.
2 companions?
Just one the whole time.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know if I had a companion for 4.5 months.
Yeah, it was
3 transfers.
We bugged each other hard. I'm pretty sure he lives like in Clearfield now or Syracuse or something. Yeah. I'll have to look him up.
You haven't hit him up, huh?
No, not recently.
Yeah, I had something like 7, 8 companions, and I had 2 bad ones, but the rest were pretty good. And I still talk to some of them.
Good.
Even like there's some that were in districts that I still talk to as well. But.
Yeah, and we lived. So he was my companion, but then we lived with another set of elders. Whenever we went back to Spain, both of the other elders that I served with still lived there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just native there. They just.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was able to see them, and that was great. That was fun.
So do you have a spiritual moment that really impacted you in your time there?
Yeah, this guy named James, he was my one and only baptism in my 4.5 months as a missionary. And I just distinctly remember him because we were just going through the baptismal questions, getting him ready for his interview with my mission president. And I just kind of had the impression that he was trying a lot harder than I was to be spiritually clean, you know? And so it just opened my eyes to the level of commitment that it needs to be to honor your covenants and things like that. And that's
great in a convert because a lot of times they're not at that level when they choose to be baptized.
Yeah, but I just remember him. He was simple and pure and innocent and wanted to show his commitment to God.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into and share why you came home early?
It was just some stuff.
Okay.
And I just came home early.
That's fine. My brother went to Mexico and then came home early. And then a little bit later actually got recalled to go to California for a while.
Oh, really?
And then he actually came home early from that one as well.
Gotcha. I was going to go back and I actually got recalled back to the same mission, and I was super hyped about it because I didn't want to go home. It wasn't in the plan, and then I ended up just feeling like it was great that I had repented of everything that I needed to repent of and was recalled, but I didn't need to go back, and so I didn't. And then I started going to the singles ward and met Haley, and we got married and have this life. So I really can't I'm not sad about it, I guess, but at the same time, it led me to where we're at. So
part of the plan, Well, were there moments or experiences that you had, either mission or prior, that kind of solidified your testimony? I know you said that the missionaries, that feeling and stuff was strong, but when did you kind of gain your testimony?
Yeah, I think I always had kind of like a kindling of a testimony. I can't say that I knew for certain that God lived and loved us until I had kids. Because I knew that what they were teaching was good and I wanted it to be true.
Yeah.
But then once I had kids, I was like, oh, this is it, Like there's just once you have kids, there's no denying that there's a God, And so I think that's when my testimony really solidified, and just everything that I've been learning and studying and practicing for years just kind of gelled up.
Yeah.
And it made sense.
Yeah. It's a pretty incredible experience.
Being a dad is literally my favorite thing in the world. Yeah. They're perfect. I love them.
Haley said that you went to the young single adult ward with your sister.
Yeah.
And right then and there said, I'm going to marry that girl.
I did. Yeah.
And then you couldn't even talk to her for a long time.
No, I tried to.
Yeah. But let's just hear your story.
Yeah, so it was my first time going. So I came home from my mission and then was going to my mom's ward for a while. And I was actually the primary pianist. But don't put that. I'm just kidding. Put it in there. But I was playing,
they're gonna call you.
I was playing the piano in primary, and then going through the repentance process with my bishop. And then once he and I spoke, and I told him I'm not going back on mission, he was like, "Okay, well then get out of my ward." Basically, like go to a singles ward. in a much
then
kinder,
go get married.
Yeah. So I went to my singles ward. My sister came with me because I just didn't want to go alone. And it was the week that Haley was talking, and I just thought she was gorgeous and had a lot to say about the gospel, and I liked the way I felt whenever she was talking. And so I told my sister that I was going to marry her, and I may be a little bit of a romantic, but I don't know. I just thought it would work. And so then I tried to go up and talk to her, and I was like, "Oh, you did a great talk the other day," and just walked off.
She said it was a few weeks later.
Yeah, it was a few weeks later.
And she said thanks, and then you just walked away.
I literally just walked away, and I didn't know what else to say besides that. So yeah.
And then how did it pursue after that?
So we both dated different people. It was funny because I went to her parents' house, actually. It was the first time I ever met her parents or anything like that. It was for an October general conference, and our mutual friend had invited me up there, and I didn't know that it was her house. I just thought it was a house. Mm-hmm. And so I get there, and they invite me in and everything. Haley's there. We just kind of hung out and talked and everything, and then we went on this walk, and I guess she hung back to talk to this guy that she was dating. He left, and then after he left, she and I were just chatting it up. And then, but to circle back, she wasn't like being disloyal or anything to him. Yeah. Like they weren't like official or anything yet. They were just kind of getting there. Yeah. I just need to represent her well. Yeah. But anyway, then I asked her for a number, and she thought I was dating somebody else at the time. So she gave it to me, but was like weirded out about it. Anyway, so then I called her, set up a date, and she blew me off. And then
tried to throw your flowers away.
Yep. And then basically just did our thing until I think it was the next conference. It was about 6 months later that I asked her out again, and she said yes, and we went on a date, and then we dated and got engaged and married in 3 weeks. Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. But when you know, you know.
Mine was quick too.
Was it? How quick was yours?
My best friend in high school was her older brother.
Okay.
And he actually passed away in 2010 at the same time I was going through a divorce.
Gotcha.
And so, with all that aside, I tried to kind of step in as a brotherly figure to her and her two siblings. Her older didn't really care to talk to me. And her younger sister was I kind of remember her thinking that it was weird. But for some reason, Courtney like really grabbed onto that. She was dating a guy at the time. He wasn't good for her. There was no thought of romance or a future or anything. I was just trying to be a brother kind of thing. And we talked on the phone a number of times during the summer until Thanksgiving. She had broken up with her boyfriend around Halloween, and I remember her talking about dating these other guys. She was going to Dixie College down in St. George.
Okay.
Anyway, she came up for Thanksgiving to her parents' house that lived just up here in Syracuse. I was living in Salt Lake. Her parents were making her go home right away because there was like a storm coming in on Friday or something. So on our way home from here on Thanksgiving Day, she asked me if I wanted to meet up downtown. So we met at that Crown Burger over by East High.
Okay.
And that was the first time we really hung out. And during that time, I realized that the boyfriend she just broke up with was older than me and divorced and had a kid and everything. And for some reason, I remember thinking that she could date me then. It's like, if you're already dating somebody that much older and he has a kid, then you'll probably be okay with me having kids and stuff. And so after hanging out, like we were both driving away, I texted her and I was like, would it be weird if we dated? And she said no. And so pretty much every weekend through December, we were hanging out with each other.
Gotcha.
We hung out on New Year's and I had work, so I had to leave right after midnight. Then after that, when she was back down there, she started thinking that I was pushing her too quick to marriage and stuff. But she thought it was just too fast and we needed to take things slower. And so we didn't hang out for all of January until the very last weekend. I had gone down there and I planned this whole thing with renting these high-end mountain bikes and going biking on these cool trails.
Yeah.
But I got down there and got the bikes and went to her place, and she blew me off to go to a fireside with her roommates or whatever.
Gotcha.
And then she got home and I had gone and done the trails myself. And I got home in the evening and I grabbed food and I asked her if she was ready to go on maybe an evening run or something. And she was just sitting watching TV with her roommate and said she wanted to watch the movie. And so I watched for a minute and I was like, well, I'm going to go do this other run over here or whatever. And she's like, okay, I see you. And I was like, whatever, dude. So I went and did this other run and I went back there and it like didn't bother her at all that she'd blown me off. I'm here in St. George, hours from my house to hang out with you. And she didn't even care. So I was like, hey, can you just take these bikes back to that store Monday morning and everything? This is how you hook up the thing to your car and whatnot and get them there. And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going to head home. And she's like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the whole thing. And I was like, whatever. So I said goodbye and left and was fully planning on not like even messing with it. I wasn't going to bother with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the way home by Payson, I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah.
There was a deer that came out on the road, and that's an 80-mile-an-hour section. But right as I got to that point, he bolted and tried to make a run for it in front of me. And I swerved to the side, and my right tires caught the edge of the asphalt. You know, there's like a lip of asphalt and then the dirt. My tires caught that, and it actually threw me back the other way and threw me into the median. And I was still going 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And when it threw me to the median, I corrected and overcorrected, and I actually rolled my car 2.5 times and landed on my roof and passed out. And I woke up to them trying to slide a stretcher under my back. And I tried like climbing onto it and stuff. Anyway, to make it shorter, I walked out of the hospital a couple hours later, but she and her roommate had driven as fast as they could from St. George to Cedar City. The ambulance took me to Cedar City, got me from the hospital, and she took me back to St. George, and I got a room at the Ramada, and she stayed with me all night, and she didn't sleep at all. She was like super concerned that I would die in my sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
So the next day we drove to where my crash site and where my car was parked, and we were on the side of the on-ramp right there by where I'd crashed. And she realized that she couldn't be without me and told me she loved me again. That was January 31st. And we went and saw my car, and she saw how bad it was and stuff, and I got my stuff out of it. But anyway, so that was January 31st. We got engaged on February 11th.
Oh, wow.
Right after that. So we dated for December.
Yeah.
And then for 2 weeks in February.
Gotcha.
And then got married in August.
Nice.
We got sealed in Bountiful.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so it was pretty quick for you to have your first kid.
Yeah, we got married in August of 2016. Elsie was born February 2018. So it was pretty quick, but we both knew that was one main reason we wanted to get married was to have a family. And so it was kind of an easy decision for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was becoming a father like?
It was amazing. It was the best thing ever. We thought it was going to be like easier. I don't know why, but we thought parenting was just going to be like us, and then also we have this kid, you know.
Yeah.
But it completely changed the dynamic of Haley and I's relationship, and just added a whole new level and depth to it and everything. And yeah, it was just great. And then very shortly after that, we decided to have another one and another one. So now we're just 3 kids deep, and I love being a dad.
Yeah. What was a particular challenge that you had to struggle with
probably
becoming
just
a father?
Time and attention. Haley and I were so used to just giving so much. It was 100% on the other person all the time. And so, like, for instance, with Elsie, I would take her on daddy-daughter dates. And I was doing school and work at the time, and Haley was trying to do school for a little bit as well. And we both had callings and stuff. And so we didn't have like a ton of extra time instead of us. So just really just time and attention.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I even say felt like we didn't have enough time, just because every time we've had another baby, we're like, oh, we had so much time. Because we thought we didn't have time whenever we were just married with no kids. And we had all the time in the world looking back on it. But I don't know.
Yeah. When have you felt an issue within your family that you've had the Lord testify and strengthen that bond?
That's a good question. I would probably say, so I got called into the bishopric August of 2019. So Elsie was like a year and a half, and Haley was pregnant with our second, with Gordon. And it just felt like way too much, because we were trying to move up here actually into the Bateman's basement, and so I could finish school and we could save money, kind of thing, and buy our own house and get established. And it really just, we had literally moved everything out except for our bed and this big dresser that we had. Then we were at family dinner at the Batemans and got this call from, he was a counselor in the stake presidency. And I kind of knew that it was coming for a while, but it felt, as we got closer and closer moving everything out, it felt like I was just mistaken. But then this call came and he asked to meet with us. And I was like, oh, I'm getting called into the bishopric. And Haley was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, everybody thought it was ridiculous, but I just knew. And so then we go and he said it. And like, as soon as he said it, our hearts just sank, because we didn't want to raise our family in Salt. We didn't want to live in our apartment. We didn't want, like, there was all these things that we were trying, that we thought we were doing right by our family. And so at this point, it kind of felt like God was saying, like, no, you're just wrong. And so we super had to pray about everything. And I think that was the first time in our lives as a family that we faced like a challenge outside of, oh, I don't know how to put the baby to bed, or she won't take her bottle, kind of thing. Yeah. This is the first time that it was like, we really felt like we were making a sacrifice. But I think because we were both able to come to the understanding that this was something that God was calling us to do, not just the counselor and the stake president, but it was actually God wanted us there for a certain purpose, we were able to move past the challenge of it, and it strengthened our family a ton.
Good.
Just doing it together. So yeah.
So you did stay because of that?
We did, yeah.
How long did that last?
3
more years.
3 more years.
In Salt Lake.
Yep.
Wow.
But yeah, we moved moved everything back in and called our landlord first and made sure that
you could stay there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And then moved everything back and just kept on doing it.
And then
I had to do it all over again.
But this time with the plan to go into the townhome.
Yep.
And then you found this when the marbles moved out.
Yeah. And it was nice because Haley knew the Marbles well because he was their bishop for a while. Brennan, her dad, was just talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, we're moving." And so as soon as he heard that, he called us, and I was like, "Oh, there's
hurry,
no
buy their
way."
house.
Yeah. Just a few months after we moved in, there was a crash right outside the Van Coman's house, and I don't know, it just kind of opened our eyes, like, oh, look, someone can just crash into our house anytime they want. So that's always kind of been iffy, but I don't know. Yeah, it's true. We could have been in a townhome.
Well, then you wouldn't be here. We need you here. What roles have you enjoyed serving within your ward? Any wards?
Yeah, I've loved every calling I've ever had. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but each calling that I've ever had has just taught me so much about loving others and seeing them as like children of God as opposed to just people. And so, yeah, I've loved every single calling I've ever had.
Okay. How have you seen service strengthen your community or ward?
There's a book called Tribe by Sebastian Younger. In this book, he talks about all these different instances of like building a tribe. And so I read that book a couple years ago, and then got it in my head that we were going to be super involved with everyone. And so anyway, all that to say is whenever we've seen the opportunity to serve others and have others serve us, we've tried to capitalize on it. Yeah. Do you have any good stories of a service opportunity that you've been able to do that is memorable? One that stands out to me from the ward is just whenever we moved in, because like I said, I was in the bishopric until we left, and so we were very involved with everything. Haley was the young women's president for a while, and we literally, this is going to sound bad if you're in the other ward, but nobody showed up to help us like move out. Yeah, not a single person.
That's crazy.
And we were there for, I don't know, years.
Yeah.
And then we came here, and I guess Brennan had texted the bishop, and all of a sudden everybody was here. And so we moved. It was funny because we weren't planning on like moving this day, and then we ended up doing it just because we could close like a day earlier or something like that. And then I ended up having strep and just hating our lives. So me and my brother-in-law and my father-in-law spent hours just, and the apartment that we moved out of, you can't like park next to it. There was literally like 3 security doors, have to go up 4 different flights of stairs kind of thing. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so we spent all day, and I strep just being miserable, moving things into this truck. And then we show up here, and literally everything is out of the truck in like half an hour, just out of the truck in the house. And it was the biggest, like, I don't know. It was such a great service to us. Yeah. It made me like want to be in the ward that we were moving into. It was great.
What do you think the younger version of yourself would be most proud of you today?
Probably just the family man that I am and the handiness of it all. Growing up in like the single family thing, I feel like whenever you grow up in the situation that I grew up in, you can either take it and recreate it and just not care about family and stuff like that, or you can take it and push it into the other stuff. I feel like I've really tried to just do the whole DIY dad, just family thing. And I think my younger self would look at me and be like, wow, that's really cool.
You nailed it.
But yeah. Hopefully, I don't know.
Well, yeah. What do you think's changed the most in the person that you are over the years?
I think just I was just an idiot in high school, like just so dumb. And now I am less dumb, you know? Yeah.
What are your hopes and plans for the future?
I I hope to serve a mission one day with Haley. I hope to see my kids get married in the temple and have their own families. I hope to finish my master's program, start my master's program, and then finish it and see success in my career from that. Yeah, I really, I don't know, just all the good things, just that's what I hope and plan
That's
for.
what you hope for, the good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice you'd give to somebody else navigating a challenge similar to ones that you faced?
Probably just to reach out to people, I think. You mentioned that your friend's brother was kind of like a suffer in silence kind of guy.
Yeah.
I feel like I was kind of raised with that mentality that you either do it alone or you don't do it. And I think you can ask for help and it doesn't make you weak. And so I would just, I don't know, tell people to ask for help if you need it.
Can you share a story of how you've stayed connected to God and found peace through His Spirit?
I think the way that I feel most connected to God is in like nature. So anytime I have the chance to take the kids camping, I will absolutely do it because I think it just separates. There's this big push within the leadership of the church to use social media and stuff for good. But I just don't. I personally feel like God and social media and like all this other crap just don't necessarily blend. And so getting out into nature and literally just not being able to use that, I feel like just has to connect you to God. And so that's the way I feel God.
Well, in a lot of ways, it seems like social media is a distraction from the Spirit. And so getting away from using it, of course, as a tool for making connections.
Yeah.
Break away from it.
Well, I have a Book of Mormon journal that I've started using because I've been trying to do it on my phone. And like I have emails on my phone. And so anything that basically takes me away from distractions is good. Yeah.
Okay. And what's a personal testimony or spiritual truth that you've held close to you?
I know for certain that the family is ordained of God. I think it was Elder Holland that basically said he can't imagine like a heaven without his family there. And I completely agree. It's literally like I go back to it so much, but just you can't have kids and not understand that God loves you because you wouldn't have these kids. Like there's no way that it just happened, you know? And so I am 100% behind that testimony that God loves us, and because He loves us, He sent us to families. And in order for us to become like Him, He gives us kids and families.
It's crazy that people can't see that.
Yeah.
Because you say this so matter-of-factly, but there's so many people that don't feel like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's people that's like, oh, I don't want to bring kids into this world or anything like that. And I'm like, that's the only thing good about this world. Not the only thing.
Right.
But like, yeah, I don't know.
I totally agree. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And before we wrap up, I just want to express how meaningful it is to hear your story and thank you for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your story today truly emphasizes the strength each person brings to their family. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. It's a reminder that no matter where we come from, we're all part of something bigger. Thank you for letting me in your home in this interview and being part of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for doing it. It was fun.
Yeah.